schedule has worked out, it's allowed us to do this particular assembly late in January, which seems incredibly appropriate, so thank you. And at the same time, let me thank Dr. Mindy Hong. Is Dr. Hong here? I don't think that she is, but because she's out a little bit, but she's been working with us all year on a number of things and has had an instrumental role in helping us put this together. Could we give her a round of applause? We welcome you to this morning's assembly and tell you, having heard our participants practice what they had to say, I'm confident that this is an assembly we'll all remember and learn from. And isn't that what this is really all about as we come together as a community? One, to celebrate our differences and our togetherness, our sense of community in a really important way. In that regard, I think everybody recognized one of our best community events of the year will come up this Friday, the Swamp Night. How many people know about that? So I hope everybody will be able to be here. I believe play starts in the afternoon. There'll be a squash match here, an exhibition, and all sorts of basketball games. And of course, dinner will be served in the dining room. What time will that be? Someone, is that from?
5 to 7.
From 5 to 7. From 5 to 7. So I hope everybody will be here and will enjoy it. And by the way, rumor has it that the Eagles are involved in something to come. We'll talk a little bit about it. We have a special treat. We're going to save that towards the end of the assembly, but we will talk a little bit about it. But this is an assembly, as I thank all of you for your involvement here as students and colleagues and parents. This, from my perspective, is an assembly that speaks to who we are and what we want for all of the people associated with the Shipley School. It's with that in mind that I ask you to pay special attention. Notice those around you. Notice those you don't know. And most importantly, think about those things we can do to be the community that you'll hear described today. It's my privilege at this point to call upon our all-school president, Owen Frizzell.
So who wants the Eagles game on Sunday night? Honestly, I still can't believe it, and I can't wait until the Eagles play the referees of, the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Now, whoever's rooting for the Patriots, make some noise. Our proposal was approved, and I'm excited to say that we'll have 2 more assemblies as a community. I'm honored to be speaking to all of you today, but honestly, I don't have a ton of jokes for you. I know, I'm sorry, but my goal for today is not to make you laugh, but to inspire all of you. One thing that I really want to share with you is this picture of Martin Luther King Jr. pulling a burnt cross from his lawn while his son is present. The cross was put in his lawn by the Ku Klux Klan shortly after King and his family moved into their new home in Atlanta. If you take a closer look at the picture, you see a nicely dressed and poised 31-year-old man with his son, who most likely has no idea what is going on. The picture has had a lasting effect on me, but the comments thread really struck me. I want everyone to think about this quote for a minute. Quote, "Over 50 years ago, we had such great hopes for our future. Now we can only hope there is a future," end quote. Another comment on the picture reads, "Still a dream." Although we have made significant progress in regards to easing racism, we are not there yet, and as a nation, we need to do better. With no doubt, our nation and our world is a better place due to MLK's courageous acts. Imagine, for 1 minute, what our world would be like without his contributions to society. Because of how impactful MLK was and is, it is important that he is not only remembered during Black History Month, but throughout all of our history, as he is one of the most influential figures of all time. The strength and bravery that MLK possessed is something that we should all try to emulate. And as a result of his I Have a Dream speech on August 23rd, 1963, I am still hopeful for our future. Thank you, and go Eagles.
Thanks, Owen. And in the spirit of today's assembly and the upcoming Black History Month, the cast of this year's upper school musical Hairspray will be performing a song that embodies the message of courage for the deed and grace for the doing. The song, I Know Where I've Been, sung by Motormouth Mabel, is about the struggle of an African-American woman and the desire for all people, no matter their race, gender, or sexuality, to fight for the light shining in the darkness and for the brighter future that that light can bring. Thank you. There's a light in the darkness, though the night is black as my skin. There's a light burning bright, showing me the way, but I know where I've been. There's a cry in the distance. There's a voice that comes from deep within. There's a cry asking why. I pray the answer's up ahead, 'cause I know where I've been. There's a road we've been traveling. There's a promise that we must make. What the riches will be plenty, worth the price we had to pay. There's a dream in the future. There's a struggle we have yet to win. And there's pride in my heart, 'cause I know where I'm going. And I know where I've been. There's a road we must travel. We must travel.
There's a promise.
There is a promise that we must make.
But the riches
Oh, but the riches will be aplenty, yeah. Worth the risk
and the
chances that we take. There's a dream in the future. There's a struggle we have yet to win. Use that pride in our hearts to lift us up to tomorrow. 'Cause just to sit still would be a sin.
I know where I'm going.
Lord knows I know where I've been.
When we win,
I'll give thanks to my God, 'cause I know where I've been.
do me a favor? Give them one more round of applause.
That was so good. Thank you.
Thank you. Really powerful. Thank you, Gabby and Cass. That was really powerful. And now, Rohel Ahmed and Ava Beckman will say a few words. Come on up.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jackie Robinson, and I am here to tell you my story of bravery and courage. I was born in 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. I had a difficult childhood, but I was good at many sports, and I went to UCLA and was named the best basketball player in the university. I was asked to play for football in Hawaii for the Honolulu Bears, but while in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor was attacked and the U.S. joined World War II. A few days later, I was drafted into the U.S. Army as a second lieutenant. When I was sent to Texas to train as a soldier, I met a person that played baseball in the Negro Leagues. At this time, black and white baseball teams were segregated. They had to play on different teams. In 1944, I got an honorable discharge from the Army and decided to play for the Kansas City Monarchs, a Negro League baseball team. At one of my games, Branch Rickey asked me to play for the Brooklyn Dodgers. Rickey was looking for a talented black player to stand up to racist bullies in the baseball league. In 1947, I became the first black baseman on the Brooklyn Dodgers and the first black player on a Major League Baseball team. Sadly, there were still racist white people that gave me a hard time. I received lots of name-calling and nasty letters. I had to control my emotions, stay focused, and keep playing. Slowly, people began to realize that I was good at baseball, and I got lots of fan mail. I played for the Dodgers for 10 years. I was so popular that I was named Baseball Rookie of the Year. In 1949, I was named MVP, Most Valuable Player. In 1956, the Brooklyn Dodgers won their first World Series. I was asked if I wanted to play for the Giants, but I said no because I decided to retire. Then I worked for the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and worked for civil rights. I helped start a black-owned bank and helped build houses for poor families. In 2008, I was voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Then I earned the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I accomplished a lot in my life, but it took a lot of courage, determination, and effort. A fun fact, April 15th is Jackie Robinson Day.
Hello, everyone. I am Harriet Tubman, and I am here to tell you my story of caring, compassion, strength, and courage. I was born in Maryland in 1820 as Araminta Ross. I had a mom, a dad, and 10 siblings. I was a slave owned by a man named Mr. Brodus. Slavery affected my entire life. As a kid, I had no time to play because I had to work all day, and I was treated very badly. Once I was hired out to a woman to watch her baby. If the baby cried, I got beaten and whipped. Imagine that. One day, Mr. Brodus' slaves and slaves from another plantation gathered to shuck corn. One of the slaves tried to escape, and I was amazed. I could not bear to look away, so I followed him into a store in town. I let the slave get out of the store by blocking the plantation overseer from catching him. The overseer threw a 2-pound weight at the runaway slave, but he missed and hit me in the forehead. Nobody thought I would survive, but I did. After that, they began to call me Harriet, my mother's name. Seeing that runaway slave inspired me. I realized I wanted to be free. In 1849, I escaped to Pennsylvania. After my escape, I became a conductor of the Underground Railroad, and the Underground Railroad was a series of houses willing to let slaves stay for a day or two as they made their way up north to freedom. I continued to go back and forth from the north to the south 18 times and helped 300 slaves escape to freedom. I risked my life and freedom every time I went back down south, but I truly cared about saving people's lives, and I was proud of my work. In 1865, the Civil War ended and slavery was abolished. You might think that my job was done, but my career of helping blacks never ended. I housed many blacks after the war and helped them start their new lives as free men and women. Unfortunately, segregation of black and whites continued throughout my life, but I know I did my best to work for equality for all people. I died of pneumonia in 1913 when I was 93 years old. Shipley students, you have heard from Jackie Robinson and me. Now it is your turn. I hope you will do your best to treat all lives with compassion and equality.
You will now hear from a couple of middle school students.
Hi, I'm Caitlin O'Malley, and I'm in the 8th grade. For my Harlem Renaissance project, I chose to research Mildred Dixon. Mildred was originally from Boston, but moved to New York City to become a dancer. She learned to dance when she was very young. She learned tap and many other styles of dance. At the Cotton Club, Mildred had a dance act with Henry Rossell, and the act was known as one of the most exciting dance acts in America. Mildred embodied courage in many ways. She broke barriers and became a dancer at the well-known Cotton Club, which was originally a club for only white people. Mildred had a very strong character. She was diplomatic, kind, and never one to gossip about others. These qualities made her a role model for generations to come. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Peyton Turner. In 8th grade, we recently completed a project on prominent figures from the Harlem Renaissance. Today, I will be presenting to you about Zora Neale Hurston. She was born January 7th, 1891 in Notasulga, Alabama. Hurston demonstrated courage to overcome obstacles in many ways. Growing up, she lived with a dysfunctional family and could not handle it, so she chose to leave and move to Harlem. It took great courage for her to leave her family behind and start out on her own. Hurston did not have an easy life after moving to Harlem. Being a black author during that time, she faced many obstacles, such as segregation. This made it difficult for her to achieve her goals as easily as others. However, by maintaining confidence in herself and pushing forward, she was able to achieve success. Now, she is seen as an inspiration to aspiring black artists and authors.
Hello, I'm Colin Lawler. I'm in the 12th grade. Off the heels of the Harlem Renaissance came the Adderley brothers. Julian, known as Cannonball, and Nat Adderley were born in the South, where they honed their musical skills. Cannonball on alto saxophone and Nat on trumpet. On a trip to New York in 1955, the brothers were invited to play in Oscar Pettiford's band. The two brothers overwhelmed the audience and began their musical career in New York, the heart of jazz. There, Nat wrote Work Song, remembering the types of songs he heard in the South. Chain gangs, which were generally comprised by blacks subject to the unfair black codes, sang work songs to break up the tedious work of breaking rocks and also keep a rhythm. Work songs like these first originated in the fields, where slaves would sing songs like, "Oh, the sun done quit shinin'," or "She brought me breakfast." They used these songs to communicate things such as mealtime. Traditionally, work songs were sung in the call and response style. One lead singer would begin the song, and the rest of the workers would answer in verse. Jazz borrows this style of call and response from work songs. This would lead way to more sophisticated call and response, such as "So What," what we're listening to now, where the bass and piano and trumpet exchange lines. Jazz borrows other elements from African American music, specifically the gospel and blues. Blues has a major role in jazz, influencing many different composers and the style itself. Now the honors combo will play a blues tune written by Nat Adderley. Here is Work Song.
Alright. Alright. Nah, that's chill. Alright. Good morning, everyone. My name is Samuel Sessoms, and I'm a senior here at Shipley. I'm up here today to talk about courage. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room comes from a different walk of life and has their own definition of courage. I know this because we all are different. First of all, what is courage? In my opinion, doing things that may scare you and take you out of your normal element is courage. And that is what I did 4 years ago. I was born and raised inside of West Philadelphia, in a small neighborhood 5 minutes away from the Philadelphia Zoo. It was a neighborhood full of African Americans. There was never any other person of a different race than me living in my neighborhood that I've seen. I was a part of the majority in my neighborhood. I had been a part of that majority my whole life. My classmates, coaches, teammates, and so on were all African Americans. The only time I actually interacted with another racial or ethnic group was at the doctor's or in school with my teacher. So I always felt comfortable being myself because I was always surrounded by people who looked like me. My bad. 4 years ago, that completely changed. I went from the majority to the minority very quickly when I started as a freshman at Shipley. Certainly, I was at a point in my life where I was maybe one out of the only 3 black students in the class. I did not know how to deal with things. I felt uncomfortable every morning walking into school. My freshman year, I would spend every night trying to find an outfit that wasn't too black or too hood, and it was hard. Not only did I have to face that, but I didn't even know how to talk to my classmates, and it was very uncomfortable at first. Coming to Shipley was the first time that I had classmates who were not black. My whole world was different, and I was afraid of it. I didn't think I could survive after my first couple of weeks at Shipley, but I stayed with it, no matter how uncomfortable I was or afraid to do anything about it. I clearly got through it as I am looking back at my experience as a senior at the school. My courage is what got me here today and the reason my life is the way it is. Courage put me in a position to meet new people with different experiences in their lives and allowed me to open my eyes about theirs. My courage was, oh my bad. Sorry. Courage put me in this position to meet new people with different experiences in their lives and allowed me to open my eyes to understanding others. I just want to say to my classmates and even the younger kids here today, never be afraid to try new things because you never know what it will bring you. Always be courageous. I say this because courage is what allows me to be in this position and standing up here for a good friend and my first friend I ever made of a different race than me, and that is Owen Vizella, my guy. Courage put me in this position to receive a full scholarship to play basketball at Binghamton University. Courage made me the proud black young man I am today. Courage is me.
Hello friends, my name is Labria Wilson and I am a senior. I'm here to introduce you to an incredible woman who I'm proud to call my mentor and my sponsor both inside and outside of the Shipley School. As a freshman coming into Shipley, I had no clue of what to expect. A week prior to my freshman orientation, I was greeted by a woman by the name of June Baldwin. I stood in front of her in pure amazement as she introduced herself. June had been one of the first African American women to graduate from Shipley when it was an all-girls private school. In that moment, I saw her strength and the courage it took for her to attend a predominantly white institution in the 60s. I conducted further research on her following our introduction, and I discovered much about the Shipley we all know and love today and the Shipley that June knew and loved. In 1954, Shipley, Baldwin, and Agnes Irwin joined together to discuss the possibility of accepting Negro applicants and faculty into their community. In 1962, Shipley's Board of Directors approved a non-discriminatory policy that would allow for both June and the African American girls and boys that were to come after her to advance their education. This policy gave June Baldwin the opportunity to elevate herself without judgment of the pigmentation of her skin. Just as the Shipley School granted June Baldwin the opportunity to advance herself in a predominantly white institution, June has granted me with the same opportunity. June Baldwin graduated the Shipley School in 1968 and went on to attend Stanford University, where she graduated with her bachelor's in psychology. She then attended Harvard Law School in 1975 and received her Juris Doctorate degree. June served as a clerk for the jurist Luther Swiger on the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago, Illinois. She then moved to Los Angeles where she was hired as an executive for NBC, and she handled business transactions, among many other things. June Baldwin had become NBC's first African American to enter the executive ranks of the entertainment industry. Through the abundance of June's successes, she acknowledges where it all started, the Shipley School. Even years later, she seeks to guide young African American girls like myself on their journeys to success. June Baldwin and her class of '68 searched to aid African American girls coming in as freshmen, and luckily she chose me and my friend Giovanna Goodwin. These women knew nothing about us except for the fact that we needed assistance. June in the class of '68 has financially supported my education, and even today, June serves as a mentor to me and many girls like me. On this day and every day, I honor June Baldwin for her grace, pride, and courage as she excels through life with the courage for the deed and the grace for the doing.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Gundy. I'm a senior and a lifer here at Shipley. Last year, one of our English assignments was to follow Allen Ginsberg's style of his Howl poem. We were given the option to talk about anything we wanted, so I chose to talk about what it feels like to be unapologetically Black. I saw the best minds of my generation living up to their fullest potential with unwavering work ethic and determination. Seeking the American dream, not giving in to the many stereotypes that are often used to characterize them. Whether trendy private school kids or hip-hop loving souls, both judged by their appearance and treated accordingly. Who were misjudged and left standing with both hands in the air, only to be seen as the ultimate threat with a bag of Skittles and a soda because of the melanin their skin holds. Who were shot without hesitation at the age of 12 years for playing with a toy gun in a public park. Who were not asked questions nor given the benefit of the doubt, but held in a chokehold for 20 seconds, 11 pleas for breath, last words being, "I can't breathe." Who are remembered by the names of Trayvon Martin, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, and whose lives are now celebrated across the world through protests and fights, because that seems to be the only way Black voices are heard. Will I have to worry about my 9-year-old brother when he will no longer be considered as adorable and sweet? Who, when he reaches a certain height, he too will be considered a threat, finally living the life that millions of African American boys live now, fearing walking down the streets in their own skin because the Black life does not matter as much as the white one? Are they supposed to live up to what society wants them to be? Most can't get past their many young or old, tall or short, big or skinny Black bodies to see who they really are underneath the color of their skin. Who are misjudged as an urban city kid even though their entire lives have been spent in suburbia. Yet, who conform to the racist stereotypes, disrespectful, obnoxious, combative, argumentative. Who wear a mask made of fear that does not come off until another Black life is taken away by those who are misjudging and ignorant. Who believe they are ignorant because they were born with it, yet ignorance is not the mother of racism, but the daughter, as it is taught and learned in the home and fed to the daughter or son on a silver spoon. Who feel that they have to conform to what society tells them is appealing and expected, but do not realize that they are dragging themselves to the level of the oppressors. Who are strong-willed, but whose strong voices and vivacious attitudes are perceived as boisterous and distasteful. Are they to accept the many boundaries that Martin Luther King fought to overcome? Segregation, hate, injustice? Who gave a speech to raise awareness about major civil rights activities and efforts, emphasizing and encouraging the significance of nonviolent protest and resistance. Who provided leadership and dedication to his fellow African American brothers and sisters so they can attend school and receive the same education as a white person. Who work hard in the classroom and put their best effort forward, giving 100%, however, are undermined by those who merely skim the surface, yet receive unlimited amounts of acknowledgement and gratitude. Who are determined but mistakenly perceived as uneducated and inferior to the ones misjudging. Who attend an HBCU to be around beautiful Black people just like themselves and feel comfortable in a setting that is made up of intelligent, diverse minds. Who put themselves around people who want them to strive for the best, not settle for the most expected. who feel that they have to conform to what society tells them is appealing and conventional, but do not realize that they are hurting themselves in the end. Are they supposed to live up to the image society puts in their heads? Rappers, drug dealers, and high school dropouts? Or love themselves in their various complexities? Who are scared to love themselves because they fear they are looked down on based on the darkness or lightness of their skin? Who don't want to celebrate their many different skin shades, but go to sleep every night dreaming that when morning comes, they will wake up a little lighter than the night before? Who don't appreciate their precious skin, the smoothness, roughness, lightness, darkness, and uniqueness it holds? Who are stared at because of wearing braids or bantu knots, and bear the feeling of shame, but who have risen above the misjudged? Who have expressed their creativity and individuality to the world based upon the incentive they gained from past generations? And why must they rise above and make something of themselves? Why must they finish college and earn a degree? Why must they show their happiness and the mental strength they gained from the many setbacks they overcame? They are those who have grown out of the stereotypes that society labeled them with, those who are unapologetically Black.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jasmine Powell, and I'm a senior here at Shipley. Many of you may not be familiar with the next musical selection that we will hear, but I'm delighted to introduce and explain the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. The song originated in 1900 as a poem written by James Weldon Johnson. Johnson was a principal at the segregated Stanton School in Jacksonville, Florida. He wrote the song to introduce Booker T. Washington, who was visiting the school. 500 children at the school performed the poem for Washington's arrival. 5 years later, John Johnson, James Weldon Johnson's brother, set the poem to music and created the song which we know today. The song is sung on various occasions. At Howard, a historically Black university, the song is sung at every sporting event following the American national anthem because it is of importance to the Black community. In addition to the song's soothing yet powerful melody, Lift Every Voice is comprised of thought-provoking lines of poetry. As we study and reflect upon Black History Month, I think it is important to acknowledge the power embedded in this art form throughout the centuries. Our words have a timeless power. Because of this, one of my favorite parts of the National Museum of African American History is all of the quotes that are engraved on the walls. One of my favorites is by Maya Angelou, who was an amazing poet herself. The quote is, "Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and hope of the slave." As a Black person living in America, I think about her words often. As you listen to the song that is about to be sung, I ask that you truly reflect on Angelou's quote and the lyrics of the song itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. As she just said, this song is about unity and overcoming struggle. I invite you all to stand, and we're going to sing this song. Music is on the screen. The words are on the screen. If you believe that our school, our country, and our world is in need of greater unity, I invite you to join hands with the person next to you and sing, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift every voice and sing, fill the air with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound
The theme for today's assembly of course, about courage for the deed and a celebration of Black History Month. Before I speak to those things in just a couple of minutes, let me take a moment and speak to the courage of all of our students and others who put themselves out here today to share their thoughts, their feelings, their experiences. It's not an easy thing to do. It's something we all need to learn to do more. But I ask you to please join me in giving them all a resounding round of applause. And by the way, I love hearing about the tradition at Howard, about the playing of the U.S. National Anthem followed by the Black National Anthem. And I've already spoken with Mr. Givler and Mr. Brown, and we'll begin our next assembly by singing them together. So thank you for introducing it to us. So my hope will be in our music places and others between now and then that will practice both for that event. And by the way, the reason we do it is that it's a respect, a celebration, an understanding of all groups of people about difference everywhere and the importance of that. But I'll say a little bit more about that. Before I have those words, I do want to acknowledge the birthdays at this particular time this week, and I'll ask those people to please stand. Gigi Goodwin, Natalie Shaw, Hannah Gold, Eli Gorell, Ethan Klein, you need to stand, thank you. Ethan Klein, John Melly, Fiona Kaur, Sophia Slipikoff, Griffin Martin, Chris Cook, Miles Zhu, Lila Israeli, Sarah Schumer, Jacques Zweibel, Max Davis, H.J. Adesanya, Ibi Warakis, Quinn O'Malley, Emmy Teitelbaum, Hudson Berger, Mr. Blair, who's not here but deserves a round of applause, and Mr. Ora, and also Mr. Ora Paolo. Can we give them all a round of applause and a happy birthday? Owen, when you began your words, you talked about Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech in August of 1963. Relatively few people in the room will have recollections of it, though I do. My family had just moved from Cambridge to Brookline, Massachusetts. I was going to go into the 3rd grade. And in our first few days in our new home, MLK gave that speech. And interestingly enough, it was a speech that stopped the neighborhood. It was a speech that asked everybody there to think about who they were and what they hoped for. Interestingly enough, as a new kid on the block, it was a speech that helped me get to know the people in the neighborhood and helped to create community. We're now more than 50 years later, and Martin Luther King's speech still holds. We're in a place where, though we have made progress, the dream is not yet a reality. Though we are more understanding, respectful, and appreciative, we're not where we need to be. We're a place where we think if we notice that someone is of a different race or a different religion, a different color, that that's sufficient to make progress. And in fact, that's really just the beginning. Too often, we think as those of us who are in a majority, that if we recognize difference but don't talk about it, that we've dealt with it. the reality is, it's when we most need to talk about it. One of the things we acknowledge as a community is that we're all individuals. And while I say that regardless of race, religion, political views, all of those things influence who we are and the way we see our world. We had the privilege to hear from some of our students about people who have made an extraordinary difference in this world. Harriet Tubman, Jackie Robinson, and about the sharing of stories that tell who we are. In fact, as a school, let me put out there to you that our nation's ability to begin to make progress starts with us. It's time that we begin to notice each other in a different way. It's time that we begin to openly share, as our students have today, who we are and what we want. We did a little bit of that in our 4th grade project. That was a follow-up on a wonderful artist who was here earlier this year. And we've done it in a lot of other places. But one of the things I would suggest is that we all need to notice things about each other that are obvious, but also those things that are below the surface. We need to be willing to acknowledge our own stories, and most importantly, to listen to, respect, and appreciate each other's stories. It's then and only then that we'll truly be the community that we strive to be. It's then and only then that will be the place where everyone in this community is safe and where we can make a difference outside of it. It's with that in mind that I ask you just for a moment to look at the people next to you, around you, with you, and notice for a moment, strictly about the way they look, something that you didn't notice before. Take 1 minute. Thank you. And now I ask something else. I ask something else of us. I ask us to take that to a different level. That in addition to noticing something about each other from a physical perspective that you didn't, to engage in the kinds of conversations that get below the surface of what we're saying, to actually take the time to know where each of us comes from, what we want, where we're going. That's with regards to not just race or religion, political point of view, socioeconomic background. That's with regards to every single characteristic that defines who we are. It's something that I believe that here at Shipley we already do in a really good way, that I think we could do even better. And that request is made in the context of many wonderful people in our history who have gone before us, who have been willing to die to try to do it. For example, we've already heard
about Martin Luther King. There are countless others. But in similar fashion, and because Jasmine noted a quote at the museum, by the way, how many people have been there to the African American Museum? It is the single most compelling experience I have had, and asks us to look at ourselves in a whole different way. Maya Angelou was an extraordinary, extraordinary person. And it's in that context that I share a couple of her quotes that have really pushed me to think about what I would say today. Prejudice is a burden that confuses the past, threatens the future, and renders the present inaccessible. We want to make the present accessible. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Importantly, she said for herself, and I believe for everybody in this room, that her mission in life was not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with passion, compassion, humor, and style. And in terms of the way we deal with people, she said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. You all made me feel extraordinary today. Thank you, and God bless you. Could you give them one more round of applause? I hope that when we finish today's assembly and we have a couple of more minutes, that you'll give thought to all of those things. And I'd love to have you email me or share with me your suggestions about how we can move forward. And my hope is that we'll begin to see it today, but certainly as we celebrate our Swamp Night and everything else here at Shipley. Now let's take a breath. We're changing tone. So, on Saturday and Sunday, I found myself in many different stores, looking to buy things, to do this, to that. You know what the common theme was in all of those places? It was the Eagles. Now, let me say, hold on. Let me say this. The highlight on some levels was when I was in the farmer's market in Ardmore. And there were 3 or 4 Eagles fans dressed in Eagles jerseys who all of a sudden began singing the Eagles fight song. Here's the thing that happened. People looked in absolute confusion, and then everybody joined in. It was absolutely amazing. So it's with that in mind that I invite our first graders to please come up. They're going to lead us in a little something. All right? And I ask you, do me a favor, everybody. Come on right up here if you can. Turn around, come on. Sure. So, listen, it probably won't surprise you what they're going to do. So I'd appreciate it as they begin, for anybody who is interested and knows, if you join them. And Ms. Giazio, are you going to start them? Who's going to start them?
Yes, I will. I just want everybody to scoot up a little bit.
Scoot up a little bit so you can be heard.
I want to just say two quick words, if I may. Thanks. So first graders are going to lead the audience in a song that we think you know. We hope you join in. It was written decades ago by two songwriters, Charles Borelli, Roger Cortland. It's been modified over the years to today's version, a fan fave.
Thank you. You could just sit right there, guys. All right. So, a couple of things. First, and our all-school president, Owen, I know we're gonna work on a prep rally for next week. Am I right? So one day next week there'll be a prep rally, and let me say this. A few things. Many of you know that I am a Patriots fan first. It's okay. It's okay. So, let me say this. Since 2004, I've rooted for another Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl, and I'm ecstatic that it's happening, although I will tell you, I wish that they were both in it but playing someone different so that I could absolutely put 100% into both teams. That said, I understand that if the Patriots win, that, and don't be, it could happen, guys. I don't mean to be distressing. So, if the Patriots win, it merely extends the sense of wonderful accomplishments that they've had, which frankly, as a fan of Brady and company, is wonderful on some levels. However, let's face it, if the Eagles win, it's a victory for the whole city. And so consistent with that, and as the upper school knows, I announced last week that if the Eagles win, we will have a day off. So, let me... Somebody asked me if I was worried about it costing me my job. I said no. So let me say this. Here's the thing is we're debating on the days, and this poll isn't going to hold true, right? We'll let you know which day it would be. But I'm curious, if they win, they of course play on Sunday. Just raise your hand. Don't be loud. I'm just curious just to get a feel. If they win on Sunday, how many would, I'll give you the two dates. It's the Monday, the day after, or the parade day, which is probably Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. Do we know what day it would be yet? Wednesday? What did you say, Trav? Tuesday. Speak up, I couldn't hear you. Wednesday? Wednesday, okay. Shh, shh, shh. So let me go on record as saying, it won't be both. It won't be both. So, boy, how many would prefer the Monday if it happened? And how many would prefer the Wednesday? Right. So we will, I will take that information and we'll make a decision accordingly. And if they win, you'll have an announcement on Sunday night about which it will be, okay? If not before. But, you know, let me tell you my predisposition. Shh. My predisposition is, I know well that if we do it Monday, many of you still won't come on Wednesday. So you can bet I don't look very smart, but it's entirely possible that we'll take that into consideration. All right, so with that in mind, listen, I want to seriously, over the next week plus, we'll talk a lot about that. But what I'd really like to have us do on a daily basis is to reflect about the things that were shared, the things that were played, the things that we're about, and ask how we're going to make those things, make each of us individually and our community better. With that in mind, I'm going to ask that make sure when the assembly is over in just a couple minutes that we put the chairs where we should. I'm going to ask that we make sure, I know, we're going to take a picture up here. And now, join me. Please stand and sing our school song. So, let me say this.
Hello.
Shh. I want to reiterate my appreciation. And Ash, you shared what it means to be unapologetically Black. I hope that everybody's presentation and our thought will allow us all to be unapologetically who we are, what we need to do for the rest of our lives. Thank you. God bless.